Hello everybody, welcome to Good Chats. Sorry I was running a little bit late. Welcome aboard to the chat room crew. Kingsley Purvis from WA, welcome aboard sir. Steve Klink, as always, welcome aboard. Double checks he's turned the microphone on. That looks okay. Not sure it's loud enough though, so let me know how we're going after last week's sound debacle. Luke's Fishing, Northern Territory. How was your visit to Adelaide, mate? What did you get up to while you were down here? Did you go see anything interesting or do anything interesting? I know you're visiting family, and that's always interesting. But yeah, hopefully you got up to something and saw some Adelaide stuff while you were down here. JK, welcome aboard. O'Malley Tours 34 around the grounds. Welcome aboard, sir. Daryl Phillips, thank you for coming on board. And who else have we got on board tonight? Pete Donaldson, welcome aboard, sir. And Andy Munro. Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you for letting me know. Shit up. See, now, last week's problem has reversed itself. And now I need to turn the mic gain all the way back up again. Although it doesn't seem to be making too much of a difference. So I'm going to pitch it up just a little bit more. That should be hitting some levels now. Hopefully that's not too much. I might just do it just a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know what happened last week when all of a sudden I dropped in a new video that had a sort of slightly higher sound level on it and everything just went haywire. And so now I've got to get the settings back to where it was. Okay, I'll try not to yell into the microphone. So there we go. Spent the first few minutes just getting that out of the way as usual. So what's everyone been up to? I'll chuck the gain up just a little bit more until you tell me to stop. I've gone up to 20 dB gain now. That looks like it might be getting a bit better. I'll give it a little bit more. We'll go 23 and see what that's like. So, as usual, I said g'day to everybody very quietly. Kingsley, Steve, Luke, what did you get up to while you're down here in Adelaide, mate? How ironic, hey, that you missed the live stream from Adelaide because you were in Adelaide. The O'Malley, JK, Daryl, who else we got on board? Andy Munro, Pete Donaldson. Excellent. And Andy did a Victoria trip around Cobden and Camperdown. I think, did I see you do a video on that one? Hopefully you'll be able to do a video soon on Jim Bowen and what was the other place? Mitre. Although that might not be how they're pronounced. I don't know. It's all part of the fun. G'day Ree, welcome aboard. So as usual, we want to hear what y'all been up to. Go check out Andy's adventures over on his channel, Andy Munro on YouTube. I wanted to talk about silos a little bit because naturally that came to mind, as you would have seen by my recent video. I want to talk about the train drive experiences. I noticed they were back at the National Railway Museum. I've been going back and forth with Max Hobby on Facebook lately as well and learning a lot about the Adelaide to Port Pirie broad gauge era and all the trains that ran during that time and where I might be able to dig up more history. And that is the next video that I've got planned at the moment until I visit the National Railway Museum, and then maybe we'll go back and do the Western Victoria Safari Part 2 later this month. Yeah, I'm starting to reach the end of the videos that I can make at the moment until I get back out there. I'd love to have a big backlog, but then I tend to just release things as I make them. Like the video I made yesterday, I just put that out 11:30 at night because when you release things, the time of day doesn't matter when you release things on YouTube. YouTube shows things to its users or to the audience when it suits the audience. So you don't have to stress so much about that as you do on Instagram and Facebook, where you do really have to time your videos and your posts and your drops and all that sort of stuff to be targeted as to when your audience is going to be online. But with YouTube, it kind of takes care of all of that for you, and time of day is not an issue at all when you post on YouTube. It was been weird weather here yesterday too, JK. I think we got into the mid-30s, and then a thunderstorm, and then it got warmer again. So here we go. Summer is upon us. Needs to be a bit more rain though. Now starting to see myself some of the crops that are failing out there now. So it's not good. Talking to Max though led me to a few things. He talked about you probably know we've talked about these a lot, the dining cars on these trains, and I hope to talk a little bit about those cars after I visited them down at the museum, and they'll become part of the story. I'm particularly interested in the old section of line between Meriton and Port Pirie. I'll talk about that in a minute too, Darryl, about influences. I'll get into that stretch there, the long forgotten stretch of old broad gauge line, because it was in the late 80s when the railway was diverted to go through Crystal Brook, and most people wouldn't even have any inkling of what's out there between where the railway used to go on its way to Port Pirie. And there looks like there might be some stuff to explore out there. We'll have a look, as we do in outdoors type style. Then we'll look at Book of the Week, and then we'll close. But since you brought it up, Darryl, and I'll get back to the silos in a minute. I have started to flex a little bit more on Facebook. At the end of the day, I do have a business that makes videos and writes and manages social media, and so I do have a fair bit to say on social media. And I tend to hold back as myself, and then so I can more easily work for a wider range of people. But it's getting to the point where I can't really hold back anymore. I was reading an article. I've read a couple actually over the last couple of weeks that talked about social media influencers, and the number of social media influencers in the world is around 50 million. And so we have this problem where Gen Z, the irony of delivering this on a YouTube live stream is not lost on me. But this thing about everybody wants to be an influencer, and something like over half of Gen Z, when asked, what they would like to do with their lives, responded that they'd like to be a social media influencer. And you wonder where the world goes when 60% of the world is trying to influence the other 40%. It's just not going to work. Also, since 2016, when I started my journey through learning more about media, and I've learnt an awful lot about it now and studied it quite hard. And I am sick to freaking death of the big bloody lap. And which is another reason why I was a bit of a square peg in a round hole in the caravan marketing game. Because there's so much going on there, and we had to work with influencers. Yet another big bloody lap. Yet another family goes on freaking holidays. Like, just go on holiday, mate. Everybody goes on holidays. What are you doing with your holidays except just showing us what you had for dinner and the lovely beach that you went to? Great, interesting. What have I learnt from that? Nothing. So, I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of these Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok channels, and they all do the whole lot as well. They're all on. When you look a bit deeper into it, they might be really popular with, say, 10,000 followers on Instagram, and then they might have 200 on YouTube and 200 on Facebook, and they might have 50,000 on TikTok. But everybody knows that TikTok is wildly inflated. And doesn't really bear any resemblance to the reality of actually making media a business and actually making it something that would work for you and not them. So, that's my rant. Deep breath, over and done with. Which is why Outdoors Type is not about the big lap, although I could have very easily made a YouTube channel, and by now paid for a YouTube channel with all the money I bloody spent on driving around on another big lap. But honestly, I just prefer to just go on holidays and not post everything all about it like I'm freaking Channel 7 or something. Yet the rant goes on. Oh, I've got plenty of spice for them. Trust me. JK, potatoes get too rotten sitting in the ground. So you're not too worried about having less rain. But I guess potato farming is a thing in itself. I know with Adelaide soils, if I go there and water the lawn now, there'll be a nice wet... it'll be nice and sludgy for about 3 centimetres after I've watered the lawn, and then underneath it'll still all be dust. It's just the way it is, unless you get, a decent, normal sort of rain, which we didn't during that thunderstorm. It was just a big, heavy gush, and then that was it, and just left everything underneath dry as a bone still, which would have been good for potato farmers, I guess, but not for my poor lawn. So, I've also been experimenting with auto-generating subjects and auto-generating text that prompts things to talk about on the live stream, because I'd like to introduce sort of as gently as we go, more of a podcast kind of format as well, where we actually have things to talk about. And I know we do, and I know a lot of live streaming is about, talking and responding and going back and forth, the audience and the presenter, but at the same time, it'd be nice to have, some topics to talk about. And so that was where I started looking at the old silos. And I ended up making this video, 35 silos in, about 5 minutes? And I ended up making it. It took about 5 hours to make, to piece it all together, to title it all, and to transition it all, and just to make sure it all actually worked. Again, I've just introduced another sound thing here, so let me know if I've just blown your ears off. I'm so sorry about that last week. That is the number one thing that you should not do, is stuff up your sound levels. I know Andy the other week asked me too what would be the number one piece of advice, and the number one piece of advice is use sound and don't stuff up the sound levels. I blanked one of the towns out, JK, because as usual someone chimes in and goes, it's not Copemanville, it's Copeville, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it is Copeville, right? But for some reason I wrote Copemanville when I named the file. It's just carried on, and the only thing you can do once your YouTube video is out is cover things up. You can't obviously erase things or change a title or whatever. All you can do is just cover it up. So I thought that's just the easiest way to do it, and of course, thank the lovely viewer for pointing out that mistake, because it's fair enough. One of my biggest videos, actually, the Roseworthy to Peterborough video, I completely misnamed Saddleworth. I can't remember what I called it now right off the top of my head, but I called it some other town somewhere completely different, and someone pointed that out, and essentially because that bit was so short, I had to take out that I chose to take out that 5 seconds of video, and if you go back and watch that, one of my most popular videos, the Roseworthy to Peterborough line, you'll spot a massive continuity error in the middle of it. I'd rather just get rid of it than just have that mistake there forever. So I'm experimenting a little bit too with, having the video back there behind me. I'll go that way. That's right. There we go. And I should actually put that on a loop so I don't have to stuff around with it. Put that on a loop, otherwise it'll end soon. Thanks Andy. There are a few good rail trails in South Australia. I know Rail Trails, I have interacted with them a little bit, Rail Trails Australia, a very committed group looking after rail trails, but yeah, the most popular rail trail in South Australia would, well, cross-country rail trail would probably be the Riesling Trail, which is through the Clare Valley, from somewhere near Tarlee, right off the top of my head. It's not Tarlee, there's another town nearby, and goes all the way up to Barinia, a bit past Clare. That's a popular rail trail. The rails around Mount Gambier have been turned into rail trails that extend out to the edge of town. And I know that when I'm there, they're very, very popular. Other rail trails around about the place in the Adelaide Hills, the Amy Gillett bike trail, which runs from Balhanna up to somewhere near Mount Torrens at the moment, and is going to be extended to Birdwood, I believe, in the future. That is also a really popular rail trail. I can't think of any others off the top of my head. I know there are others, but I can't think of them right now. But they're the marquee trails, as it were. And so that will just loop back around in a minute. But these grain silos, you know, they tower over the landscape, right? You can kind of tell sometimes that you're coming up on a town, not because you can see the mobile phone towers are another way. You can see a town coming up or a water tower, but grain silos were always one of the biggest ones. So, you know, they're built, you know, as for practical purposes, but they've quickly become an icon. And now that they're being demolished and people are advocating for them to be retained, we're starting to see more of a cultural aspect. Yeah, that's right, Pete. Riney is the town. Yeah. So yeah, they've become more cultural than practical as time goes by. There are some still in operation. I wonder, you know, whether or not they've entered their sort of last cycle of life, end of an era, as you said, Darryl. They're like Kimber, for example, is still well and truly operating, but you know, who knows for how long. I don't know what the calculus is behind why they're operating Kimber like that and not Tail and Bend like that, for example. I was wondering about the Narracourt silos, Andy, and whether or not Narracourt actually had any silos. I'm now going to have to think about that one and see whether or not I can find any images just to prove to myself that they did have some silos. There's plenty of space there. Welcome aboard, Joel Taggart. That's really great. The Amy Gillett Rail Trail is happening. The extension to Birdwood, that is. I'd be really interested to go see that, because you know, you've got the Burford Hill Road Bridge, I think. To me, again, a really iconic bridge, the only major piece of engineering that ever existed on the Balhanna to Mount Pleasant railway line, and it's still there. So I think that would be a really exciting and interesting part of that rail trail. I must admit, I don't know what you mean by bulkheads, Darryl Phillips. I'm not yet a grain silo expert, but at the rate I'm going, I will be very soon. The line to Wollonga, yes, that does have the Coast to Vines rail trail. Why didn't I think of that? Because essentially the video I made of Haddock Cove to Wollonga follows the Coast to Vines rail trail, as much of it as I was able to cover in the time that I had. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Joel. Yeah. It all just, great minds think alike. It all just came to mind at once. And that is an awesome rail trail as well. That winds its way through places like Ranella. Really interesting to see how the railway kind of snakes its way through the, essentially what to a lot of people are the back blocks these days, and it just kind of disappears into the background. And unsure of how many, for example, whether or not there are any grain silos along there. But these days, some of these grain silos are being saved, particularly when the local council steps in and turned into huge pieces of art, which is... So yeah, these are no longer functional in most cases. I don't think there's any. I don't think Viterra would have any paint on any operational ones. So the again, I'm not sure what you mean about bulkheads. What are bulkheads? Help me out, man. Good old OTR has taken up some of the space, I guess, where near all the old wheat and industrial infrastructure used to be down there in Naracoorte, which again speaks to what I was talking about in the Kalangadoo video. Now when you get a lot of these modern pop-up things like OTRs and oldies and stuff like that, they're quite often in the old railway spaces. So who knows how long some of these silos are going to last. It made a huge difference to the way the railways operated and to the way agriculture operated when we go from the days of bagged wheat. When I've seen a lot of images and heard a lot about that. There's a few good books on the days when wheat was essentially bagged and it was always manually loaded onto trains and then manually loaded onto trucks. And so silos and bulk loading of grain and enabled a huge economic boom for South Australia. Okay, I get it now. Yep. All right. Yeah. So covered with tarps, dirt-sided, dirt floor. Gotcha. So they're bulkheads, right? Okay. So do you think, Daryl, that's an indication of what may be planned for the silos out there at Kimber? You can see just in the video just then, we're nearly at the end of the video, but just that bit that just played then, it looks like Wolseley's headed the same way. I think they had an expansion of their grain storage facility announced a little while ago, but as you can see by my video, and you can probably go back to the Mount Gambier line video for more footage of Wolseley, and that will show that the silos are still in operation, but again, who knows for how much longer. Okay, so we got bunkers and we got bulkheads, all good. I'm going to look that up. It's really interesting, the story that I asked Gemini, which is Google's AI, to write for me, and how it manages to take essentially the only three things I want to say about grain silos, and somehow makes it into 2.5 pages with titles as well. Same thing all over again. And it must be grabbing this information from all over the websites, all over the internet, and just bulking it right up. I was going to read some of it, but God, it's just... Here we go. As South Australia continues to embrace the silo art movement, the future of these iconic structures looks promising. There are ongoing plans to expand the art trail, with new murals and installations being commissioned each year. This continuous evolution not only preserves the historical and functional importance of grain silos, but also ensures that they remain relevant and celebrated in contemporary culture. Yeah, alright, no, fine, whatever. Okay. So, it's amazing when I go back through my videos as well, because I've made about 120 odd videos, and I think I was able to retrieve about 46 of those as potential as raw files to perhaps put onto media, as I did for our mate the other week, and put it all onto USB, and thinking about making it into a DVD for that generation who prefers to put things into DVDs. The silo artwork is definitely a massive thing amongst the Grey Nomad crowd, and I would really like to thank the Grey Nomad crowd for not all becoming social media influencers, except for a few notable exceptions. They know how to go on holiday somewhere and not freaking post about it every 3 seconds. But yeah, being a school teacher now with AI, I reckon, JK, if you had your head screwed on, which unfortunately most teachers don't, you would be able to pick AI up a mile away. It repeats itself over and over again, and it just sounds like you're weird Chinese school teacher was trying to give you a lecture on something. It's just strange. I can always pick it a mile away. Sorry to the Chinese school teacher cohort out there, but they're probably laughing too. So, also I made AI, and I'm going to have to think about this more. I also made AI write me something about the train driving experiences coming back to the National Railway Museum. So, to save me talking for a little bit, I thought, hey, I'll go do that. I saw it on Facebook and I thought, oh man, I've got to go do that. But then I kind of remembered I've already done it. So, just to reminisce, we're going to go back to that video for a little while. I'm going to go share Chrome. I'm going to transition over. I'm going to actually turn the sound on. How about that, eh? And then I shall play the video. You know, some of those things in life are just bucket list things to do, and I'm about to tick one off my bucket list, and that is drive a train. Why does this sound like? Why is it echoing? Yeah, you're right. There we go. Weird echo. Not sure if you were getting that. Yeah, there's something bucket listy about blowing a train horn. There's something even more bucket listy about blowing a train horn at a pedestrian that's in front of you while you're driving the train. Yes, you can, Andy. Just check it out on Facebook. Just be there on the weekend, book your ticket for $40 and off you go, mate. Well, that is anyone who's over the age of 18 and who's not drunk. Maybe I will go back and do it though, because it leaves from a new station this time. Ooh-ah. So you can feel like you might even actually be driving along the Adelaide Metro railway lines. You might even have an Adelaide Metro train go past you while you're driving it. But make sure you visit the Pirate Life Brewery after the train drive, not before the train drive, okay? So yeah, that was it. So now I'm going to go back to salad cream. So Max Hobby talked about something called a cold collation, which was served on board the dining cars. Now, what did he say about that? Where was it? He fondly remembers that a certain item that the SAR always had on the luncheon menu, it was called a cold collation. It was a plate of cold meats with lettuce, sliced tomato and cucumber, salad cream, fresh crusty bread, and butter. This was always on the cafeteria car menu. If you can't picture it, then I'll just do a quick share screen for a minute to show you what we're talking about. Let's do a screen cap and transition over to that. And then I just obviously sneakily am borrowing this from Flickr. So cold collation, I guess, can be anything that's cold, you know. This one's got pineapple in it and carrot and capsicum. But what really got me thinking, crazily enough, was the idea of salad cream. I don't think I've ever tried salad cream before, right? What does everyone think of salad cream? Have you tried salad cream before? What's it like? What does it do? Because I'm about to try some. So thanks, Max, for the salad cream idea. I think it's kind of like mayonnaise, but with flavouring in it. Looks a bit like mayonnaise, but with flavouring in it. Oh, you should have been here the time that O'Malley made me eat a cream eclair, man. I should do that again next time, smashing cream eclairs on the live stream. Yeah, so it's got the texture of that. Yeah, you're right. Bit runnier. Wow, that's exactly what I thought it would be like. It's like mayonnaise, but a bit more on the seafood sauce kind of thing. Imagine seafood sauce. A little bit of seafood sauce fell into your jar of mayonnaise, and then you mixed it all back up again. And that's what you get. Heinz salad cream, 57 varieties. According to the ingredients, it's got vegetable oil, vinegar, sugar, mustard flour, free-range egg yolk, salt, and a bunch of chemicals. So it is pretty much mayonnaise, but with a real seafood sauce tang to it. Not so much that you'd call it seafood sauce. It'd probably go really well with cold meats and tomato and crusty bread. It's pretty crap on its own, though. Whew. Piquant. That is a great word, Ree. That's just what I was feeling exactly then on camera. I was feeling the piquantness of it. This show does have everything. So if you want me to taste test something else that's not going to cost me like lobster dollars, please feel free. But I'm going to put that on a plate tomorrow with some cold meats and some tomato and some lettuce and some crusty bread and butter, and add some salad cream to it. And I'm going to pretend I'm on the Adelaide dining car between Adelaide and Port Pirie. I guess I love these ideas of these old menus and the old things that were served before basically air fryers and all the flood of packaged and pre-prepared foods that happen these days. I like the old days of putting things together and keeping things simple. So maybe next week I'll actually do a Good Chats cold collation. Perhaps we can all put together our own Good Chats cold collation and share it next week. That would be pretty cool. I'll get practicing tomorrow on this whole cold stuff on a plate with salad cream on it, and see if we can bring some real salad cream A game next week on the stream. Now, I would normally do book of the week, but I really am running out of books of the week at the moment. I do need to sit down and actually read some of the books that I've got. Because I don't really just want to go waving around books that I haven't read before. So I'm going to skip the book review for this week. So I need to find my thing again. Here we are. We're just about half an hour into it. And we're going to bring up to That's All, folks. Now, if anybody wants to come up with any topics or any questions, hey Andy, come up with some of the questions too. If you come up with them during the week or whatever, I know they just tend to come up at the time, but also send them through to me on Facebook. I'm pretty active on Facebook, so you can always send them through to Outdoors Type there. Any suggestions? I know Daryl sends a lot through. Hey Daryl, have you changed your name to Daryl Sinclair on Facebook? I'm confused sometimes as to who I'm talking to. I know Jack, and g'day Jack, because you're replaying likely as well. We've got Jack and John and Tareka, and when I deal with so many people and accounts, please forgive me, it gets a little bit harder to track when people are using multiple names across social media. I plan to be back in the Wimmer at this stage on the weekend of the 6th of December, right off the top of my head. So I'm going to go down to Hayward first is the plan, and spend the night down there this time, because I am not spending any more time in crappy pub rooms after the last trip. Right. Yeah, bloody hell. Well, there you go. I've never fought with anyone as big as Clive Palmer, that's for sure. So, yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. And then I'll be going back around sort of the Coleraine, Casterton, Henty area. I didn't get to explore that anywhere near enough, and spend enough time on that, and then come back up and go from Hamilton back out to Carpolac as I head home on the second day. So usually, the second day can be a bit longer because home is at the end of it, so I don't necessarily mind getting home at 9:30 at night on the second day, but certainly don't want to still be running around unknown countryside at 9:30 at night on the first day. I'm hoping to get some more images from the National Railway Museum when I go visit them in a weekend or two, and hopefully that will open things up for me, and I can start thinking more about putting those videos together. But I do know that I just didn't get enough last time, and it's quite common for that to happen for me too. If I've just never been somewhere before, then I really don't know what to look for, and I do sometimes make these videos when I've only been to a place once, but I know when I'm not really understanding what I'm looking at, and I'm missing things, and I feel like I'm not one of those YouTubers that just kind of goes around and goes, yeah, here's me looking at something, I don't really know what it is, but look at that, eh? The level of knowledge and stuff you've got to put into it for social media and YouTube these days to stand out from the other 50 million social media influencers is okay by me. That's fine. That's what you've got to do. And I think Andy, you've chosen a subject that you're obviously been very intimate with, and know a lot, and you've been deeply involved with for a really long time, and so that makes it easier. But when I go out to new locations, I haven't been involved with those areas of Western Victoria at all before in my life. So, I just want to go out there, spend more time, just immerse myself in the area, spend time in the area, and pick up on things that you might have otherwise missed. Still, I always miss something. See Copemanville, for an example. there was lots of railway video that I almost could have used in this silo video, but I was out there and I wasn't filming silos at the time. Perhaps I will, focus on those a little bit more as time goes by until I get another collection of another 35 silos and we can put a 5-minute video together. But once again, I want to thank everybody for bearing with me again. I'm just going to leave the sound settings as they are this time, and I'm going to test them a little bit better before I go live next week. So thanks Kingsley for coming on board. Steve, Luke's fishing Northern Territory, safely back in the Northern Territory, although I don't know if safely back in the Northern Territory is a thing. JK, thank you for coming on board. O'Malley Tours 34 around the grounds. Dale Phillips, King, who else have we had? Thanks heaps for chatting so much tonight, people. It's excellent. Pete, Andy Munro, we've had Ree, thank you for coming on board. Joel Taggart, first time, I think, or first time we've heard from you, so thank you for your information there. I always learn more from everybody out there, I think, than I'm offering, but that's what we're here as a group for. Hey, we just learned about bunkers and bulkheads, eh? Who else have we come on board? Anybody else come on board late? Sorry if I've forgotten you folks. That's been good chats for another week. Thanks to the replayers as well. Jack Wayman, Max Hobby, ADHD. Come hither with Heather if you're out there, and Drew's Adventures. Always a pleasure to have you guys on board. It's been especially great this week because I've been able to test a few new things out, like the video in video as well. So again, always a little bit experimental, and sometimes it's actually good. Thanks for joining me on Good Chats again this week. We'll see you next week at 8:15 p.m. Peace.